lot going on in the ag industry. And you'll see here the biggest issue is they're changing how the overtime rules work. Under federal law, there is no rule about overtime for the ag industry. None whatsoever. But we do have rules in state law. And for the longest time it was you had no overtime obligation in the ag industry under certain wage orders for any work up to 10 hours in a day, 60 hours in a week, which is a lot. It's more than you know for the other industries, for those of you in other industries. Well, they're changing that, and you can see here on the first page of the substance of materials that this is going into effect slowly. First, they're going to have it go into effect for employers who have more than 25 employees. After that happens, they're going to then start rolling it in for the smaller ag employers. So it depends on your wage order. That can be fairly technical, but it's important if you are in the ag industry, and that includes like if you're in vineyard operations, some other things like that. Not the winery, not necessarily the winemakers, but particularly if you're harvesting, growing, maintaining ag operations. You do need to understand this. It's going to be a major impact on what happens in your cost of doing business and when you have to start paying time and a half, and then ultimately you'll have to be paying double time for any hours over 12 in a workday. This is going to be a very significant issue if you're in the ag industry. This is something about how you calculate bonuses under federal law, but California will be using this method for determining it. The bottom line is, anytime you have any compensation other than just that hourly rate, you have a bonus, whatever, for a non-exempt employee, you have to roll that time back into their hourly rate for overtime because they work those extra hours to earn that money. A lot of people don't realize that. So if they've got a little bonus, they get that factored back, allocated back into their regular rate for overtime purposes. Usually doesn't amount to a lot of extra money, but if you don't do it, you're going to get nailed for it. The thing is, depending on what kind of bonus it is, if we call it a flat rate bonus versus a productivity bonus, depending on what that extra money is and how it is accounted for, will alter the proper calculation method you need to use. So it's one of those things I encourage you, because it's kind of complicated. If you have anything other than the hourly pay that your hourly person gets on top of that hourly rate, or if you have piece rate, or you have fluctuating rates, multiple rates, how you calculate overtime is very complicated. Once you get it done and in place, you're fine. It's not going to be a headache every minute of your day, but it's important to get it done right, or else you're going to find yourself facing some very, very high levels of liability. I want to mention the whole issue of rest periods and then recovery, like if you have a heat issue in a workplace, or if it's freezing cold and people need to get out of the elements. These laws have been around for a long time. They're still kind of misunderstood, but one of the most complicated wrinkles right now has to do if people are paid on a piece rate basis. And we occasionally have seminars where we talk about nothing but these wage and hour issues, so stay tuned, or if you have specific questions about that. We did one on this about a year ago, so I'm not sure when we would be doing another one on this topic. So if you have questions about it, you pay people on any basis other than just simply hourly, you should check on this, because between piece rate, commission rate, there's a whole issue in the law right now about how are you paying those paid rest breaks. And it makes a little sense if you think about it this way. Well, it's supposed to be a paid rest break. Well, if I'm a piece rate worker and I'm not working during those 10 minutes, then I'm not earning my piece rate during those 10 minutes. I'm getting dinged during those 10 minutes. So I have to have a separate pay scale for those breaks. So keep that in mind, take a look at that, and understand where that's going.